Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unmute Now, the podcast which raises the volume on whispered conversations in our communities. We are here today having a conversation about weddings. Yes, it's about that time of year, isn't it? The wedding season. Before we get started into our conversation, I'm going to introduce the other guests, the other hosts. No guests today, just hosts. So, first of all, Natasha, would you come and say hello?
Hi, guys.
And Angela.
Hi.
And Yolande.
Hello, everyone.
If this is your first time with us, we are so pleased that you're here. And if you are a regular visitor, we're just very glad that you have joined us to hear us just having some fun, talking a little bit about weddings. We're going to have some interesting conversations today. I can sense it coming. First of all, I want to know, ladies, all four of us are married. Is there anybody who had any kind of funny stories, anything strange that happened at your wedding? Yolande, did you?
Too many to mention. I swear. There are two things that I know for sure. One, I didn't become a bridezilla because after all that happened, it was quite plausible if I had been a bridezilla. Excusable, sorry, if I had been a bridezilla. But for me, one of the stories that stand out in my mind, beginning from the fact that I had long dreadlocks and my mother-in-law, not me, didn't want me to get married in dreadlocks, had to get them cut. And it started with my hairdresser forgetting about me the morning. Went to the hairdresser shop, knock, knock, phoned her. I'm sleeping. I forgot you're getting married today. Oopsie daisy. So that was the start of a disastrous wedding day. And then it ended with going back home after finding an impromptu hairdresser who bleached my hair and permed it in the same spell and caused it to fall out in chunks. And therefore, I had a very low, flat haircut that couldn't fit my tiara. And going back home to hear my dad say, darling, all the meat in the fridge is blue. I will tell you how that happened. You know you have to buy them like a couple of days before, prepare your meat and everything. But somehow somebody forgot to keep the freezer door tightly locked on the deep freeze. But my dad, bless his heart, he said, don't worry, we're going to start to slaughter again. You know how we Caribbean people slaughter pig, sheep, everything that he started to slaughter again. And we went out and bought fish again and got them ready.
And this was at what time? What time was your wedding? Or what time was all this drama happening?
In the Caribbean, guys, it's usually at 3 o'clock, kind of get to church by 3 o'clock. And then the reception follows straight on. So you probably be there all night into the reception. So here's the icing on the cake. When I got home, and my mother-in-law had come down from foreign and brought 3 suits the same for my 2 boys and my husband, 3 pinstripe suits. My boy was about 10. The oldest of the 2 was 10 at the time. And we had taken them to the cleaners and they came back mix and match. They took the kids away before my husband and discovered my husband's trousers was too short.
Oh my goodness.
So you know what that meant? My son was already at the wedding waiting for us in my husband's trousers. By this time, it's not even funny because nobody knew. By this time, my husband is now running to the town looking for a pair of trousers all without me knowing and came back in black trousers, blue and white pinstripe jacket. And in the wedding, I'm up at the altar and realize my son is wearing a pair of trousers where there's a trail behind him. It's not funny, guys. It wasn't funny. So I'm not.
It's hilarious.
I'm gonna leave that right there.
This is like traumatic for you to go.
This is trauma. Listen, and I can even tell you this last bit. When it was all said and done and I sat there wishing for people to go home, we realized that, we have nowhere to go because we didn't book a hotel. Don't go there. Don't even go there.
Well, I have to say, I have a similar story with the trousers. When I was getting married, first of all, you need to understand that I was getting married in England, traveling over from Jamaica within a week of the wedding. This was going to be a combination, obviously, of my family and his family and his friends, etc. So he had two of the groomsmen were his friends, and one of the groomsmen was my cousin. Now my cousin is 6'3", and the two groomsmen were like 5 foot something. Because of course we were getting married not in our own space, we were in this new environment with people who had put us up. So we didn't have all the groomsmen in the same house. One was staying in one place and the others were staying in another place, etc. On the morning of the wedding, my 6'3" cousin discovered that the trousers he had were only 5'3" and he couldn't wear them. So actually it wasn't even the morning of the wedding. This was like at say 1 o'clock and the wedding is 2. I had made all my arrangements. I had determined I'm going to be a bride who is on time. Yeah. I was all ready. I was like, nothing is going to make me late today. Nothing is going to stop me, that kind of thing. Oh, only to hear trouble with the groomsmen's trousers. I'm like, what? Next thing I know, I'm asking, well, where are we? This is in the days when there is no sat nav. The A to Z was no help. They had to ring my husband, the groom, and ask him, how do I find the other groomsmen? Where are they? My husband is busily on the phone saying, okay, from where you live, you need to go along the sea road and make sure that the sea is on your left and travel. And I will tell you when to turn. And he's telling them, look for the this, look for the this. Little did he know that they'd made a wrong turn before that.
Oh no.
So the sea was on their left, but they had long past the building that they needed.
Oh my goodness.
So after a long time of playing, you must be there by now. They realized nowhere near it. You have to turn back. The sea's now on your right and you're looking. So eventually they got the trousers and eventually the wedding got started.
Well done.
Wow. Wow.
What about you, Angela?
I didn't have any clothing disasters, but what did happen was, so for me, it was a big Nigerian wedding. Most Nigerian weddings traditionally big. And it was at a time where, you know, now how people would send out invitations and say invite only, and people generally respect that. But there was a time when that wasn't respected, you know? So you know that when you send out an invitation, it's going to bring more than the person or the people you sent it to. So we did, check this, we did 300 invitations.
Wow.
Got prepared for 600 at least.
That's worse than the Caribbean.
We knew. This was in London, by the way. There was this one venue at the time. It was a school, but it had a really huge, really nice hall. And that's where all the big Nigerian weddings happened. I mean, they were raking it in from the Nigerian community. So we were preparing for at least 600 people in terms of food, right? On the day, we get more than that. And now, to the point that they had to go to a local Nigerian restaurant and get some more food in the midst of the reception. So obviously, totally. At one point, we were taking pictures, right? So we went outside to the area, we're taking pictures, and somebody's walking past. I'm like, who's that? Because it's like, you know, so anyway, they get the food and everything's fine. I'm obviously totally oblivious to all of this until afterwards. My aunties who had to kind of step in and deal with the drama were telling me like, oh really? Oh yeah.
Tass, what about you?
Well, I don't have any of those funny clothing things or dramas. In fact, I went totally the opposite side in terms of my husband and I decided we were going to have a traditional wedding.
Okay.
And we were planning on just going off on our own and doing our thing. And I think 2 weeks before we were getting married, or a week and a half, we just casually mentioned we didn't want to have a big to do. We casually mentioned, oh, by the way, we'll be going to City Hall and doing what?
No, you can't do that.
On his side of the family, my side of the family. How can you do that? What about us?
Yes, we want to be there, our princess.
Oh my goodness. But we wanted to do it. And we are like, oh my goodness. And I was like, you see, we should have just gone and said
Just
after.
quietly
I
tell
wouldn't
them
have forgiven you
afterwards.
though.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I
So
got
yeah.
that same reaction to Tassa because I wanted to do that too. And the only way I could have defied them was to
Mhm.
deliberately wear black.
Oh dear.
And so I wanted my wedding dress to be black. And
Yeah.
again, they didn't allow it. So my
Which one?
bridesmaids wore black
Oh, black.
Black.
Yeah.
Okay.
deliberately.
So I
Wow.
Yeah.
didn't have the whole, bridesmaids, groomsmen, all of this kind of stuff. In fact, I was even going to get a dress. And my mother was like, no, let's go to. So this is a week and a half. And we're like, okay, get dressed, get bouquet, get this, get that. I was like, oh my goodness. And then my sister-in-law was like, oh, I'll get you somebody to do your makeup for the day. Now, you ladies know I like to do my own makeup, but I was like,
Mhm.
sure, let's get pampered. So she took me to this lady, and I asked the lady, have you ever done makeup for
Black.
for black ladies? She's like, sure, sure, sure. I said, okay, go ahead. Now I
Natasha.
sat there and I do my entire face before I had a
Oh,
look.
oh,
And then I had
Natasha.
a look, and I said,
Oh,
no.
no.
Oh,
No,
wow.
I took a tissue wipe. I was like, no.
No.
My dress and
Oh, no.
everything, and I had to wipe it off.
All off.
My shade was like 2 shades too light. My lips were overlined. Things that I was like, oh no, 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 no. These pictures are not going anywhere. Had to do over everything, so that money was, you know.
Wow.
But yes, it ended up being quite cool. There was only like 13 people in all. That included myself and my husband and just family. But we
Mhm.
were planning for a year after we'd have a big celebration. But
Mhm.
we weren't able to just quietly do it into the night. We just had to give in and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Next time you have to go to Vegas, love, to get that. What happens in Vegas stays in
Stays
Vegas.
in Vegas.
Yep, yep.
And what about weddings that you've attended? Now, keep it anonymous, okay? But any 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 shenanigans or any strange happenings that took place at anybody's wedding that you can think of?
I remember when I was a young girl, I had a cousin that she's well known for her baking, so she used to do cakes and all these fancy pastries and stuff for weddings. And I don't know if anyone remembers or if people still do this, but in the Caribbean especially, if you didn't have this as a snack or whatever you call it, a finger food at your wedding wasn't saying anything. It was prunes stuffed with peanut butter. Did anybody ever have
No, that's I
peas
don't
stuffed
know
No.
with
that.
peanut butter with toothpicks through it? You'd wrap the grapefruit or something in foil,
Yes.
and then you just stick it. Just look like a porcupine with all these prunes and peanut butter sticking out of them. So we did a whole set of that, and that wedding that we went to was crashed, and it was so bad. Of course, they ran out of food because people didn't cater for the people who weren't invited.
Mm.
Got to a point where people not only ate all the finger food and everything, they peeled the foil off of the grapefruit and we're just eating the grapefruit.
Grapefruit.
Wow.
So the props became food.
I mean, I suppose it's the same like whenever people, your own wedding, because my own wedding obviously was crashed, but I had two boys at the time who didn't really care and they came up, Mommy, I made sure I drink 6 Vitamalt one time. I'm like, why did you need to drink 6 Vitamalt? And this is after the wedding, and I'm trying to hush them aside while I'm trying to get my dance grooves on. Mommy, I had sick because mommy, everybody's rushing the bar, so we want to make sure we drink your money. I was like, okay, so I mean, for me, the funniest thing was that at the end of it all, you have those bouquets, but my mother-in-law bought bouquets from overseas, so they weren't real flowers, they were fake flowers on
Mhm.
every table.
Mhm.
They're all
People are taking
gone.
them home.
Same here. People
Oh
made
my
off with them.
goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, they take the
Yes.
forks, they'll take the
Everything.
listen, and here's a bit that my husband can't get over to this day. He said, babes, they even took the pen we signed the register with. Up to this day, he talks about that. Imagine the pen, and the pen has our inscription, our
Oh,
name.
wow.
But
But have it gone.
That's bad.
that
I
kind
know.
of go
Wow.
on, go on.
Sorry, Raquel. I was just gonna say for me, and this is probably sounding really bad. The only wedding, except for my own, that I've been to where I thought, oh, this is trouble. I don't know. Have you ever gone to a wedding where there's actually a very older couple getting married, maybe just at the end of their long life together, and they thought they get married, and it is terrible when they're both wearing dentures and decides that they're going to have
The
the
kiss.
wedding
The
kiss.
wedding kiss.
I would leave that right there. I'm going to leave.
Dear, I'm going to come back to something that you mentioned about, what people take away from weddings. But before that, Angela, do you have any weddings that you've attended? No?
No. I mean, Nigerian weddings are always a drama, to be honest, always. And apart, it's never the one wedding, it's never the one day. So we have multiple days. There's what you call the engagement, which really is the traditional way of getting married, before the whole sort of maybe church and registry sort of thing, where it would basically be families coming together. So the husband's family would come with into the wife's home or with whatever they hired, and it was all very much drama. It really literally was drama. So you would have somebody who was like an MC for the husband's family, or one for the wife's family, and the MC for the wife's family would put them through all kinds of drama. Like they've got literally got to prostrate flat. The husband's going to come with all his friends and all his male friends. Everybody's going to lie flat in front of the parents because they're begging, and they start using kinds of flowery language, like, there's a flower in your garden that we'd like to pluck. It really is drama. And they go through all sorts. No, come back tomorrow. No, she's like, hey, come back in a week's time. It really is. It is so much fun. But yeah, you get all of that. So that's usually one day, and then you have then the wedding itself. So it's always big and grand. But yeah, good crack, as we say in Northern.
That kind of leads us nicely into me asking a little bit about, the traditions that tend to go around weddings in the different cultures. Because like Yolande talked about, well, Natasha, first of all, talked about, the traditional eateries, all the finger foods and stuff. And then Yolande was talking about all the giveaways that everybody expects to be taking things away. And now you're talking about, the traditions that go around that. Maybe I'm going to start with you again, Natasha, and tell us a little bit more about some of the traditions, some of the norms that kind of associated weddings back home.
Okay. Normally you would have the name. You used to have these little, I don't know what you call them. They're like little ribbons, and you will have the name of the bride and groom and the date that they got married, and so they will pin them onto the guest clothes, and people would keep that as a keepsake from the wedding. And a lot of weddings would have what we would call the wedding favors.
Yes.
So you take these little gifts to give to the, and of course you have these people who just like they're serial wedding attenders. Those people, like, it's like every week they have a wedding to go to, and you're like,
every week.
how many people do you know who are getting married?
Crushes.
Yeah, and I just have this little collection of wedding favors from everybody's wedding.
The cabinet, the glass cabinet.
Yeah, and you'd come back with all these little mini rums and little cakes and all these stuff. That was just their joy, just to go around and collect wedding favors.
Angela.
Oh yeah, that we call them souvenirs. That's a big thing. Like if you don't give souvenirs, there's something wrong. It's either you couldn't afford it, or that's the kind of, it would be like, there's nothing to say. No, it's like you've got to have souvenirs, and the souvenirs can be as wild as anything. Usually they would have something printed on it. So you'd have things like a lot of household stuff, like trays, bowls, mugs, things that are supposed to be practical. And then they will have the name of the couple and the date, and then who it's from. So you'll have like, this was, presented by the bride's parents, or presented by the siblings, or whatever. So you have that. People would literally be fighting over themselves to bring souvenirs, and then you go away with lots of stuff. So if you didn't do souvenirs at your wedding, wasn't a wedding.
We talked about for weeks. And Yolande.
I mean, I suppose when I think of it, if what comes to my mind, I swear I ain't jumping over the brooms. So when I think of the types of things maybe some cultures or some people do, the only thing I really think of is, you have to toss the bouquet behind. That might have been, I suppose, adopted from maybe other cultures as well. But I know against my will, I was forced to throw it over my shoulder to see who would catch it. But I'm not jumping any stick, no broom, no nothing in case I fall down. No, thank you. And I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but I know that I've been to one or two weddings here and really opened my eyes to the comparisons that I noted in different areas. So I'm not sure.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
No, I mean, for example, here's my bugbearer. Sorry, guys, but here's my bugbearer here. Listen, you can't invite me to no wedding and tell me I must pay for my dinner. We don't do that in the Caribbean.
For your, not
So
even
that
pay for your
was a shocker for me the first time I was invited to a wedding here, a local wedding, and you have to pay for your dinner ticket. Like seriously, back in the Caribbean, some of them don't even bring no gift.
Exactly. They're
But
still
they
getting
take some home. Yeah.
And of course, don't forget at the end of the wedding reception, especially if it was a home reception, everybody have a shed pan, a container full of
Take
extra
food.
food
To go
Yeah,
home.
Mhm.
to take home with them.
That's
Food
it.
for days.
Yeah,
Some of them would even tell you they're not eating if they know they're going to a wedding.
a wedding,
Not eat
exactly.
first.
Yep. No, yeah.
Mm-mm,
Oh, that's a
mm-mm.
part of Caribbean culture for sure. People be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's a wedding tomorrow." They wake up and don't eat. They
They
just go
don't
with
eat.
their long belly, as we say home. They go with the long, empty
Wow.
belly.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I was going to mention earlier and I forgot that I remember going, there are two small wedding clothes issues that I'm going to just quickly throw in there. I went to a wedding and I was a bridesmaid. I had traveled overseas to attend this wedding. When I arrived, the day before the wedding, the bridesmaids' dresses arrived. Well, we only tried on the dresses at about 6 o'clock the afternoon, and everything was huge, huge. The bridesmaids was sitting in the corner crying. Sorry, the bride was sitting in the corner crying. The bride's mother was calling the bride's shop to ask, "Can you come and
Yes.
fix these dresses?" Ring, ring, no answer. Ring, ring, no answer. At which point we decided, okay, let's go to the local shop and buy some pins. We bought safety pins and pinned up all the dresses. And that's how the wedding went ahead.
Wow.
Another wedding, I wasn't at this one, but I heard about it, where the groom chose a best man who was an ex of somebody important who was at the wedding. Well, she knew that the ex was coming with the new woman,
Oh boy.
and so she went to town on her dress. She was
Ooh.
like, she spent some money on this dress. She was in charge of food, so she was busy. She wasn't at the church. But when they arrived back to the home for the reception, she stepped out in her frock,
Wow.
only to see her ex's new woman in the same
Oh,
dress.
stop it.
Oh no! Obviously, he likes what he likes.
That could
Wow.
not happen. Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
Oh,
You know,
dear.
Raquel,
The
because
same dress.
Raquel, just because you mentioned the disaster of the dress story, guys, don't kill me to know that I had one more disaster. My mother-in-law brought the dress down, and you know those corset fitting dresses up here, which I didn't want at all. And the corset was huge. And I want to even imagine to tell you, she said, "I thought you were this X size in bra." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" So anyway, I had to go out the night now to try and find a seamstress who could take in the
Take
two
it
sides
in.
of the corset. But that kind of material ain't easy
It's
to
tough.
work with,
Yeah.
you know?
No.
So the seamstress did her best. But guess what? I spent my entire time in my wedding with my two hands down at the side,
Oh, dear.
trying not to show where all the patch was tucked under there. Could you really imagine that? No.
Oh dear, dear, dear. The things we go through. Okay, I think the last thing I'm going to ask us is about ideal honeymoons. Or if you don't want to answer ideal honeymoon, you can answer, if you could change one thing about weddings, what would it be? I'm going to start with Yolande.
Well, here, I've always been saying to my husband, I'm being very serious, he owes me a honeymoon. How many years later? 13 years later. And probably the reason why we probably weren't so fussed with the wedding, you know, the way, I mean, we were 10 years together before we actually got married. So
Okay.
all that went wrong really didn't faze me. The fact that we forgot even, and back home in those days, we didn't really have honeymoons. We probably couldn't afford them. So after your wedding, then maybe all you needed was to book a cheap motel or hotel or somewhere that you have the night out. We didn't even remember that. So I keep telling this man he owes me a honeymoon. So if I'm gonna have this honeymoon, I really, really want to go to Jerusalem. Very strange place. Very strange place, but I want to go there somewhere at some temple and just dress up in the way that I envision women of old, I believe, might have looked when they got married. I don't know.
Very interesting. Very
The
interesting.
pilgrimage.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's it.
There you go. And Natasha, what about you? Are you going for honeymoon, or are you going for one thing you would change about weddings?
I think I'll go for one thing I'll change about weddings, and I know this is not going to be a very popular opinion because maybe for a lot of people, and I don't want to stereotype and say women because I know some men look forward to that as well. But I know for a lot of people, they build it up so much in their heads and they plan so much for it that they spend a lot of money on that, and then they start off their actual life together at a disadvantage financially and things like that. So I would say, unless you can really afford to have the the blowout wedding of your dreams, is just that have something meaningful, whatever that looks like to you. Make sure it's your vision and not really your family or whoever that might be trying to put their vision on you or what they would like to see. Have your vision, enjoy it. If you cannot afford it, save that money to have a bomb house, because a house is something that will keep on appreciating in value and you'll have forever. The wedding is just for one day. So that's what I would say.
That's a good point you've made. And I think now during this particular season where it is unlikely to have a blowout wedding, it's, people are probably seeing the wisdom of that, just save the money and do something that you really want to do with it instead of kind of, investing so much in the day.
Yeah.
But turning it to you, Angela.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on what Natasha said. It really is that whole thing of, cut your coat. You used to say cut your coat according to your size, but then there's what's the word? There's an improvement on that, which is cut your coat according to the cloth available. Forget your size, whatever's available, make it work. Because you see all of this Instagram weddings and whatever, and people have so much pressure. I read one story about a couple apparently somewhere in Africa who had borrowed so much money and spent it on their wedding because they expected that those who were coming, I think they'd invited some, people that were wealthy, would give money. Because in our culture, you would have people who would support you. It's very much a family affair. People will contribute towards. So I don't know what this couple were thinking, but they felt that they would get their money back and they didn't. So they were bankrupted. And I think one of them ended up killing themselves. It's like, come on, let's be real, people. It's the marriage that's important, not the one day that everybody comes and forgets about it. So it really is that about focus on what's going to happen afterwards. We had a couple in our church who got married during lockdown. You have people who've been postponing their weddings because of lockdown. I'm like, go ahead. We had it was at the time when you still could have 30 people, and it was so lovely. Like you could tell it was those that really mattered that were there. It was such a lovely atmosphere. So yeah, let's just reorientate our minds about this thing. It's really your years afterwards that matter. So yeah, just wise up.
Well, I've got two little thoughts.
Your family will let you.
If your family will let you.
But to have a big wedding,
Yeah, I think two things come to my mind. One is the wedding dance. Why do we need a wedding dance?
We do. We absolutely do.
Well, what was the wedding dance like for you, for your culture?
I mean, I would answer that question quickly. For me, I can honestly say it's not really a cultural thing. It's really how good you yourself can dance. And my thoughts when I heard about the wedding dance, my heart was palpitating because I was thinking, oh boy, this dress is too long. What if I trip over? What if my husband tricked me? What if I don't dance good enough? But I mean, I swear I didn't even want to do it. So I barely rocked while he's wild. So he's trying to throw me across. And I'm like, Michael, calm down. But I absolutely love these days. I've been to a few weddings, and particularly I have to hand it to the African people.
Choreographed dances.
Yes, tell me about that.
And it's
Yeah.
beautiful to see because even the whole wedding party is involved in the moves and they well plan it and practice. My friend had to go to practice. I was like, are you serious, love?
Like they got time.
Is was that a thing when you were getting married as well, Angela?
Not so
Wedding
much,
dance.
no. But what you do have is when you come into the reception, like there's an entrance,
Mhm.
of the bride and groom and the train into the reception, and then all of their friends. So we had all of that, and so everybody was kind of big 2 lines lined up, and everybody was dancing. But it wasn't choreographed. But you just kind of see that whole thing where you leave the party to it and let them do it before everybody else joins in. Yeah.
Very good. Well, my mother would tell me about old time weddings, and instead of something like the wedding dance, what would happen was there was a procession, but as they proceeded, people would put money in a money bag for the couple to start their new life,
Oh,
which I
very
think is a
good.
lovely idea.
Yeah.
A lovely idea. Well, I think we've had a fantastic conversation about weddings. Thank you very much for sharing all of those very funny stories and then some, telling us a little bit about the traditions, etc. I hope our audience have enjoyed listening to us. Remember to join us on Unmute Now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Unmute Now 1 on email if you want to get in touch with us. You can find us on various different podcasts on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and anywhere else that you find good podcasts like ours. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, pass us on to your friends and family, those who haven't heard about us yet. Check us out on the YouTube channel, Unmute Now. I hope you had a great time, and we'll see you again.
And all the
next
best to all
episode.
those who are getting married in this season.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Lockdown weddings and all the rest of it.
Congratulations.
Right.
on the new
Yeah.
Say goodbye then, ladies.
Bye.
Bye. Keep raising the volume.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.